first and second place winners were presented their respective localities in the state meet scheduled for Saturday, June 25th. That's taking place. 34 kids have signed up for the summer camp program in Ladysmith, and 18 signed up for the summer camp program in Bowling Green. And that's registration is now being accepted for the fall season of youth soccer, and really try to get that out. Soccer has always been a good sport that many of our youth have played in, so we need to make sure that's advertised. That's the only report I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Seeley, Technology in the Town of Bowling Green.
Mr. Chairman, we have, Mr. Wilson and I met with a company that was going to try to provide high-speed internet via wide area network, and we have not heard back from them yet, but that is still in the works.
That's the same one we talked to last year? Yeah. Okay, they're coming back, so they're serious again. Okay, that's good. All righty, thank you. Ooh, thank you, Mr. Popowitz, Public Safety, Economic Development, Town of Port Royal.
Yes, sir. As far as Fire Rescue Emergency Management folks, department began its Do You Have What It Takes volunteer fire and EMS recruitment campaign, and the staff also attended volunteer workforce leadership training in Richmond. They also have finalized their transition process to our new EMS transport billing company. The department, after the big bus crash, conducted a after-action review on June 1st, 2nd, 13th, and 22nd. They held several different classes in operation training operations throughout the month of June. Wanted to talk a little bit on economic development. One of the things that I noticed that McKesson is now hiring. I think that's a great thing for our county. We'll be starting to see some jobs come from that. The other thing that I saw earlier today was on Fox News, Business News, and I'm not sure if it's under the entire United States as far as total company share, but they were like number 3, and it may be in medical, number 3 employer throughout the United States in new hires. So that's a great company. Like I said, I'd like to congratulate Gary again on that win for us. And as we move forward, I'm looking forward to seeing how that helps our county grow in the future. So that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Popowitz. Mr. Underwood, you've got Utilities and Public Works.
Yes, sir. Probably the 2 most important or 3 most important items is that the Caroline Pines Water Extension Plan is moving along, and right now there are 3 acquisitions left to be signed, and that's moving along quite well. And hopefully the project will be advertised by July 19th. Additionally, we have placed on hold the bulk water, or the addition of water usage with the sand filters at Carmel Church until the bulk study is finished that we're talking about tonight. So any other sand filter work is on hold at this point. Additionally, the Don Library construction is about 85% complete, so that's moving along at a very rapid pace. So those are the ones I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Underwood. I've got Finance and Communications, if you could pass those down. As far as communications, we are still deliberating on our move to narrowband with the county and deciding what our options are with the FCC. With regard to finance, we actually adopted the budget, and this is our first one. I have a budget message from the board chair that I sent to, I hope, the Freelance Star and the Progress just now, and I'll give it to Mr. Parton. We'll wait a few days before we put it on our website. But I'm just going to summarize it and kind of review. I've passed out the exact message to the board. But we'll start briefly by saying we closed out 2011 with an unencumbered balance of over $1 million and this was due to reduced spending and better than expected revenue collections. We actually had that positive balance in spite of over $1.5 million spent for correctional institutions and another $1.5 million spent for the Comprehensive Services Act. Those are, for the most part, state requirements that don't necessarily have any state funding behind them. Although the 2011 numbers have not been finalized or audited yet, we expect to use most of that balance to repay some of our debt service and, of course, to help with cash flow in the months that come before real estate taxes are collected. And I wanted to thank the county staff for their fiscal hard work. I wanted to thank the treasurer for actually collecting more revenue and thank the commissioner of the revenue for identifying more revenue. And then we get to the county tax rate, which has been set at 68 cents, which you all know about. This does reflect an increase from the 53-cent rate of the past 2 years. And you'll remember that for the 2009-2010 year and the 2010-2011 year, taxes were not raised. They remained at 53 cents. So when we look at the average value of a house in Caroline, if your house was valued at $200,000 2 years ago or before the reassessment, you will pay $84.20 more per year with the new tax rate. That's $42.10 in June, $42.10 in December, or about $7 more per month in the change in tax rate. And I understand that for some, any increase in tax can be a burden, but the position is that we're going to give you the best possible return on your investment for that additional $84.20. So for the $84.20 more that the average homeowner will have to pay, the county was able to provide $500,000 in additional revenue to the school system. Combined with the school's use of the $300,000 in unused funds, they were able to provide bonuses and pay increases for their teachers and staff. The county's contributions to schools is now $11.5 million for just over 4,000 students. This does not include the $3 million a year in the capital programs that the county is also doing for schools. And to give you a little perspective, when we put the state and federal funding in it together, the county spends $8,303 per student. To compare, in King George, they spend $8,200 per student. A little more perspective is tuition at Carmel Christian and Fredericksburg Christian is close to $7,000. We may never approach the $10,000 per student in Fairfax, but I again submit that we're very competitive. We've made major investments in school facilities. We financed $9 million for the Bowling Green primary renovation in response to the school board's decision to go through K-5 schools. We also plan another $9 million for the high school renovations and HVAC, hopefully in the spring. $82.40 has meant significant investments in the county's school system. Your $82.40 more a year has also meant more for public safety. In 2012, we'll add 17 new sheriff's vehicles. This is basically replacing an aging fleet where the average mileage was almost 100,000 miles. We purchased a new ambulance for the fire and rescue to complement their fleet and added 9 new school buses to their fleet. Water and sewer is another area where we made huge investments with the additional $82.40 a year. We're trying to prepare for the business growth in Carmel Church and Ladysmith, where we invested in the wastewater treatment plant. And as you can see today, we're discussing water. We're providing water to failing systems at Caroline Pines and Lake Caroline. Adding residential customers and businesses will, of course, require more water capacity, which, of course, we're talking about, but we have funded adding wells and treatment options for the short and midterm. We're also looking at the regional partnerships, which we discussed, and we still have the withdrawal permit for the Rappahannock. Understanding water is a precious commodity, we're trying to keep as many options open as possible. Every county resident benefits from the business growth in Carmel Church because the real estate revenue in that area is close to $2 million. The more businesses we can recruit, the more tax revenue we get, and the longer we can keep our tax rate low. In addition to the increased revenue, our latest business partner, McKesson, as Mr. Popowitz has mentioned, is now hiring, and they have about 100 to 150 new jobs for county residents. They will not be the only new business coming to Caroline. Right, Mr. Wilson? We will have another announcement, hopefully very soon, with some folks we've been talking to. Finally, we've made some key strides in the quality of life for all Caroline County residents. While keeping our tax rate as one of the lowest, we've made the aforementioned improvements to schools, public safety, and public utilities. We've also tried to provide services and needed benefits around the county. We have a new library in Dawn that allow residents in that area to access books and, of course, the much-needed internet. We've worked with home builders to help them and the now improving housing market. I don't know if you noticed, but the Freelance Star reported that there is a shortage of housing finally developing. So that's a good sign for us. We've also worked with the existing cable companies and new prospects to try to increase the high-speed internet availability in the county. We continue to recruit new businesses. We've continued to fund FRED so that those who have jobs can get to them and they can keep their jobs. After combining the county offices last year, we've created permanent county decals so you no longer have to stand in line in March. We still have a lot to do, and we'll continue to do that work. So that's theoretically where we are right now with our budget and what we look forward to for next year. So that'll be hopefully on our county website next week. I'll wait a week for the progress and the Freelance Star if they get that. But that concludes my finance report, and we'll now move to appointments. And I think we had a recreation appointment for who? Mr. Seeley had the recreation appointment. Okay, so you're not ready? Mr. Underwood, you had an emergency services appointment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Chennault has indicated she'd like to continue to serve, and I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Okay, motion made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That motion carries unanimously. So that was Mrs. Pam Chennault.
Yes.
Okay. Consent agenda, agenda items A through J. Is there, anything that board members would like to have pulled from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to talk about agenda item F.
Agenda item F. Any others? Motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda with the omission of item F?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Akers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item F, Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I guess this goes to Fran Hatcher. In this new state, in this new policy that we're to adopt, it says that the board adopt a fund balance policy of 10% of the following year's budget.
Yes, sir.
So in our budget, that means we'd have to have a fund balance of like $7.3 million.
That's your current policy.
But is that what we're budgeting?
No, sir.
So does this change what we're currently doing to a mandate from the state? Is this a mandate?
The mandate from the state is to adopt a policy.
Okay.
Now, if you can't always follow the policy, nobody's going to come down and say, oh, we're going to close you up because you didn't follow your policy. You can get a qualified audit if you do not adopt this policy. The main thing about this policy is the terminology, and that's the GASB requirement is the terminology. And you'll see it in the audit report this year. Instead of seeing reserved fund balance, undesignated fund balance, the terms are going to be committed, restricted. They're going to be totally different terminology based on the level of authority that put the restriction on the fund balance in. The other part of the fund balance is just a restatement of what you currently have that you adopted back in 2000. The 10% is what we already have. We just have not been able to get there due to the economy and other issues, but that is your fund balance policy currently.
So this isn't going to change, and I guess that was my question. Does this change our policy, or is it the policy that we currently have?
It's the policy you currently have. The only thing that's changing is the terminology that is required to be used for restricted fund balance.
Because I also see that they actually, do we also talk about when you get to the 15%?
That's your current policy that was done in 2000.
Okay. That was my question, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion we approve the policy.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Akers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously, and we are close to 7:30. We will take a brief break without any definition of the time, and we will come back as close to 7:30 as possible. Probably 7. We'll take a 15-minute break, 7:40-ish. Okay. So board stand is adjourned. And at this time, we will have our public comment section. At this time, anyone who would like to address the board on any subject that is not a public hearing has the opportunity to do so, and we will give each speaker 3 minutes. So if there's anyone who would like to speak, please come forward. If there's anyone who would like to speak as part of the public comment, please come forward.
Chairman of the board, other members, ladies. I'm Doug Terry. I'm from downtown Sparta, and I think the last time I checked, I was still in the Bowling Green district. Jeff hasn't kicked me out yet. But anyway, I just want to make a little brief comment on losing our director of our fire chief. Dave Lehman, I think that was one really good move by the board 2 years ago was to hire him. This is my personal feelings here. He came on, implemented a lot of programs, some changes, necessary changes. We didn't necessarily agree with everything that he did, but we hashed it out back and forth, did the pros and cons things, come up with a better system that we have in place now. We still got some issues we're working on, and we'd like to continue on with that. And I would just like to make a comment that I think we need to replace him with somebody as comfortable and as good as he was. He was 100% committed to this county. Anytime I called him with a problem or with a situation, he was there to help us, and he did a lot of good for this county. I know that economic times and stuff the way it is now, I feel it in my job, my work and stuff like that. I think sometimes maybe we need to think outside the box on hiring and replacing needed members on the county staff. I got to go out and do bid work, bid on my jobs. And maybe it's this opportunity for y'all to present this thing in a way that, hey, this is what we want, this is the requirements we have, had the candidates come in and look, see what our county looks like, see what our fire stations look like, see what they had to work with, and then give you all a bid on how much they would charge you to come in and do the requirements that this county needs. That's just another crazy idea I had, I guess. But anyway, I want to thank you for everything y'all done for us down at Sparta and also the other departments too. I really appreciate the support that y'all have given us in the past, and thank y'all again.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Is there anyone who would like to speak speak? Anyone else who would like to speak as part of the citizen comment section? Is there anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move on. Excuse me, to agenda item number 6, which is an ordinance to amend Article 17 of the Code of Caroline County to provide for the establishment of the entire county as a technology zone. Mr. Wilson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is your public hearing regarding the amendment to the ordinance to allow all of Caroline County to be a technology zone. The Board of Supervisors adopted the technology zone ordinance in 2009. It applied to all primary and secondary growth districts. It was approximately 30,000 acres all told. At the time, there was some discussion that perhaps this should be adopted for the entire county. And since that time, Mr. Popowitz has taken the lead to bring this project forward to actually realize that goal. And that goal, of course, is to make all of Caroline County a technology zone. The technology zone has no material impact on landowners who are not attempting to sell their property to a technology zone company. The zone does not affect actual zoning, land use, or impact taxes. The program has been in effect for 2 years, and it has had no citizens' complaint at all. And that is the issue to be addressed this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions at this time for Mr. Wilson before we conduct the public hearing? No questions? Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
We'll now consider the public hearing to be open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is declared closed. How does the board wish to act on this? We have some direction from the county administrator that we can actually place this amendment on unfinished business for final reading later, or we can amend the rules by majority vote of the board and adopt the ordinance right now.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the ordinance as presented by staff and changes thereof.
Okay, let's do it procedurally right. So first we would need an amendment to, or a motion to amend the rules,
Okay.
To allow this to come to a vote now.
Make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Akers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Now you can make a motion to approve the technology zone, excuse me, ordinance amendment.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion made again by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Akers. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Seeley.
I still have a concern that it looks like we're turning all the zoning in the county into a technology zone. It reads as though that's what we're doing, even though that's not what we're technically saying we're doing. And I don't know how to differentiate that for everybody that comes in and says, oh, the whole county's a technology zone. How do you then tell somebody that the entire county's not a technology zone? It's actually the 30,000 acres that we've already, that is zoned for that potential use.
This is an economic development tool. I think that it's...
I'm going to let Mr. Wilson address that and make sure. We do have a motion, Mr. Wilson. We have some unreadiness, so if you can address that question and make
Yes, sir.
sure we differentiate between the entire county being a technology zone or the 30,000 that Mr. Seeley mentioned, if you would.
Yes, sir. I think there are two classes of people who would be observing this. One are citizens who have virtually no interest whatsoever in technology zones or any other kind of incentive zoning that's become very, very commonplace. For example, there are also tourism overlay zones and so forth. And since in the last 2 years, most people in this county go to sleep and wake up in the morning in a technology zone and no one's cared about it, I don't anticipate that to really change for that. As far as the other class of people that would be interested in this would be the business community or businesses from outside our community. This has become very familiar to most people in the business community. So I don't think there would be a great deal of confusion on their part And certainly when we get to a serious portion of a conversation with a business, all these kind of issues are very much early on addressed and cleaned up.
And I guess the differentiation is my real concern in this, because when we say this, I mean, we've got the folks from Lake Landor that have been here saying they don't have internet, and now we're saying they live in a technology zone.
Yes.
And that isn't something that I want to say is taking place. What I want to say is that the 30,000 acres that we have zoned commercial and looking at it for industrial development or commercial development is in the technology zone, and we do support that. So I guess I'm looking at the two things as saying people wake up every day and don't realize. I think we have a number of people that do wake up and do realize that they don't live in a technology zone. And I guess somebody coming saying, I want to rezone a piece of property, you're saying the whole county is a technology zone. I haven't seen anything where technically we can say it's only, and that's where my differentiation is that we have designated that 30,000 acres as commercial or industrial and technology. And when we say the whole county, it gives a whole different permutation of what we think we're doing. That's my concern with it, is it does sound like we're changing the zoning every place. And we don't have any ability to differentiate that in anything written. People are just going to see it that way.
Perhaps we could issue a press release that clearly identifies the distinction.
Well, that's a good one point in the sky kind of situation, but globally I'm looking at how does that look when somebody comes and they see, you have an ordinance that says the whole county is a technology zone. And I guess that's really my concern, and we haven't heard anything basically from the attorney saying how this really affects us long term.
So in our, Mr. Wilson, in our actual ordinance, there is no reference to the 30,000 acres that you mentioned.
It addresses the point by saying all areas that are designated a primary or secondary growth district, which does not necessarily mean a B1 or M1 property.
So by that definition, that would add clarity to Mr. Seeley's question. However, maybe not as clear, as direct as he would like it, but that does clarify it, right?
Well, I think it, to be quite fair, I think it reinforces Mr. Seeley's point that since it encompasses all possible land use zoning now, and that only further extends that point to the rest of the county. But the point is that it is affecting only business investment, potentially, anywhere in the county, as it currently only potentially affects business investment in all the areas in the county now that are in a primary or secondary growth district. And again, for what it's worth, it has not caused any confusion or concern, at least it's come back to our office as a result of this designation.
Okay. We do have a motion. We had some unreadiness. We addressed that. I'm going to ask you to provide as much clarity in your press release that you stated before, and to make sure that we get that to the folks that can get it out to as many people as possible. At that point, I'll call a question. I think we understand where we are and what needs to happen. So, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Mr. Underwood, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Popowitz, how do you vote?
Strong aye.
Mr. Seeley, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mr. Akers?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so the motion carries 4-1. We move to agenda item number 7, which is Special Exception 01-2011. Johnson, Alvin, and Renee, owner applicant, requests a special exception in accordance. The applicant is here, yes. In accordance with the, I lost my place. In accordance with Article 17, Section 13, Standards for Special Use Permits. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing tonight is SPEX 01-2011. Alvin and Renee Johnson, owner and applicant, are requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, Article 10, Section 3.19, of the Caroline County zoning ordinance on tax map 52D-1-10 containing approximately 0.89 acres. The property is located at the northwest corner of Center Drive and Commerce Way in the Ladysmith Industrial Park in the Madison voting district. Proposed use is a towing storage lot. The 2030 comprehensive plan identifies this property as being located in the Ladysmith Community Plan and designated as community business. The applicant is requesting a special exception to allow a towing storage lot on a vacant parcel of land in the Ladysmith Industrial Park. The industrial park is comprised of various parcels zoned both M1 and B1. Existing businesses located within the park provide a variety of services. Commerce Way itself is home to a mill workshop, HVAC contractor, a small auto repair facility, and flex space containing a number of different offices and businesses. Businesses along Center Drive, the main thoroughfare into and through the park, include professional offices, a hair salon, daycare, and a restaurant. The subject lot is bounded on the north by a wooded, undeveloped portion of land zoned for industrial. Adjacent lots to the west and south are zoned for industrial uses. And vacant lots to the east and southeast across Center Drive are zoned for business uses. A towing storage lot is defined as part of a bona fide towing service where motor vehicles are towed or hauled for temporary storage not to exceed 120 days. This differs from a towing service operation, which does not allow for any on-site parking of tow trucks. Towing storage lot does not allow for the disassembly or salvage of any vehicles. It's simply for temporary storage of those vehicles. Article 15, Section 8.H of the zoning ordinance contains the development standards for towing storage lots. Those standards were included in staff report for your reference. These standards include, amongst other things, a limit on the number of vehicles stored on the site at any given time, that limit's 40, and prohibit the storing of vehicle parts and metal or on-site sales. Standards also state that vehicles, vehicle parts, and or metal cannot be sold from the site. Development standards require an 8-foot board-on-board fence or a masonry wall to screen the operation from view of adjoining lots. Should the special exception be granted by the Board of Supervisors, the applicant will be required to submit a minor site plan for approval prior to commencement of operation. The site plan review process will address issues such as VDOT entrance standards, landscaping requirements, and other issues related to the site planning process. The recommended conditions are included in the staff report. The Planning Commission did forward this request to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval, and that was a unanimous vote.
That was it, Mr. Fincham.
That was it, Mr.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Fincham before we open the public hearing? No questions. Thank you, Mr. Fincham. And the applicant is here. Does the applicant wish to speak, or you don't have to? Just asking if you wish to. Okay. You don't have to. You don't have to. Okay. All right. We will declare the public hearing to be open for Special Exception 01-2001. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? When you come forward, just state your name and your voting district, please.
My name is Mac McManus. I own the adjacent lot next door, Madison District. Hello, Wayne. My concerns on the lot would be just the same as any board member, that a towing storage lot would open up next door to you. I'm concerned with the environmental impact because my understanding it's close proximity to where the water source is for Caroline County. And all I'm asking from the board is to look hard at this before it's approved. At the environmental impact, the water runoff, the fluids runoff, and Mr. Johnson had indicated that fluids are drained from the vehicles after an accident at his auto repair shop. most accidents that occur in the evenings or after hours of the repair shop being open, those vehicles wouldn't have fluids necessarily drained. So I'm asking the board to take a serious look at this, an engineering standpoint, of where those chemicals, where those fluids are going. Are they going into our water? Are they running off the property? And have it engineered in a manner that protects every one of us. As a property owner, Caroline, I just want to voice my opinion on this and let y'all take a serious look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is declared closed. At this time, does the board have any questions again for Mr. Fincham, or if the applicant's willing, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Fincham, now that issue has been brought before us regarding environmental issues, was that taken into consideration or discussed at any time during the planning phase when the planning commission had this before them? And if so, what was said, and if not, should that be taken into consideration?
It was discussed. There was no specific condition in that the ordinance currently requires that vehicles with leaking fluids be put on a concrete pad and the fluids collected and properly disposed of. I did talk to Mr. Akers, who had a similar concern, and I believe the desire is for those fluids to specifically establish a condition that those fluids would be drained and properly contained and stored of prior to bringing the vehicle to this site.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Underwood.
And I understand that, but the discussion was what happens after hours when that doesn't occur.
By condition, it would have to occur, or it would be a violation of the special exception, and the board could revoke the permit if that is deemed to have occurred or to be occurring. So if that condition is added, as I understand that a condition specific to that is to be added, then if that condition is violated, the board can revoke the use permit.
And that was what I was going to say, is the fact that what my condition would be is that all vehicles are drained before they're put on this lot. Whether it's, regardless of the condition, all liquids are drained before they're put on this particular lot. And if it isn't, certainly Mr. Johnson understands that if he's in violation of the special exception permit, that it will be withdrawn. Now, I'd also put on the special exception that as long as Mr. Johnson is complying with the conditions that are going to be listed, there's absolutely no problem with the special exception. But there will be a 2-year review of the special exception to make sure that all conditions are being complied with. So, it's not like the board is giving a carte blanche check. Now, we are allowing the landowner to do something with his property, but also we're keeping watch of what is being done. I know Mr. Johnson, I know Mr. McManus, friends of both of them, and they're fine people. And I certainly have every reason to believe that Mr. Johnson is going to live up. I've never found him to not be keeping his word in the past, and this is not the first time he's come to us with special exceptions. So again, I would certainly propose two of the conditions be added. One is that all vehicles must be drained of fluids prior to be put on the slot. And the other is that there will be a 2-year review of the special exception.
By the Board of Supervisors.
By the Board of Supervisors. Yes.
I have a question. And I guess then I don't understand the lot. Isn't this a vehicle that could be towed for a multitude of reasons? It was parked illegally. You wouldn't want to bring it and drain all the liquids out of it if it's parked illegally.
Mr. Seeley, Mr. Johnson, I've had this conversation.
Okay,
He's
I'm just
agreed to
making
it,
sure I
and that's all.
understand.
Nope, we agreed to it, and that's it. We agreed that all vehicles, before being put on this property, be drained of fluids. Now, you have another place that you can keep vehicles that may be only kept for a day or two, a week or two, or what have you, and that is fine. That's where you're keeping them now, and you do have a concrete pad that you can place those vehicles on, and I understand that. But my condition is going to be any vehicles that's stored on this lot be drained. And then there's no question about, liquids being run off and into other people's property. That's going to create a problem for you as well as it's going to create a problem for the county. Because the wells, we do have wells that are close by this particular property.
Let Mr. Seeley finish his question, and let the
I
only
was just
question you
making
had?
sure I heard it right, that's all.
Okay, that was the only question you had? Okay, any other questions? Okay, I've got a question for the applicant. Mr. Johnson, if you would come forward, because we just have to make sure this formality goes through. I saw you nodding your head many times. But we have at least 5 conditions in your special exception already. And Mr. Akers has proposed to provide another condition or 2. And I just want to make sure you're perfectly willing to live up to those conditions.
Absolutely. And I've talked to Wayne about it, and I've talked to many people. A lot of people's concern is fluids draining out of the vehicle into the property. I have run a storage lot in Caroline County. I'm running one right now, and I don't have any issues with any fluids leaking anywhere. Most of the vehicles, as I can explain to everybody here, that would understand an accident, and I've talked to many people. The first thing when an accident happens, front-end collision, is the police are called. It takes them 10, 15 minutes to respond. Then we have the paramedics that come to respond to the hurt people or the injured. The last people to come is us, the tow company. At that time, if it was a major front-end damage and it was leaking fluids, does anybody know where the fluids are? They're already on the ground. If you take like a mason jar and you knock a hole in the bottom of it, it's going to drain out pretty quickly. It's not going to be over a period of time of, a half hour, 45 minutes. It would drain pretty quickly. And I completely understand what Wayne was saying, and I agree. If that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do. But we do tow vehicles like he was explaining earlier. I tow for Enterprise. I tow for Hertz Rental. When people don't pay they rent a car and they take off and they never pay, then they call us for the vehicle where it's at. We pick it up and we store it for them. I tow for the Caroline County Sheriff's Office. They do require me to keep cars on the storage lot for habitual offenders for 30 days. I tow for the state police in the same warrants. So I have to, like he was explaining earlier, I do have to store these vehicles, and I know exactly where Wayne's coming from. But the vehicles that we are talking of are vehicles that are brand new vehicles that the fluids really shouldn't be drained. But if that's what I have to do to have my storage lot, then that's what I will do. Like I said, I currently run a storage lot right now in Caroline County. Never had an issue with any fluids at all running anywhere. I also own and operate a storage facility in Hanover County, and I do the same thing. If I have a vehicle that's been in a major accident and the fluids are leaking, and if it's at nighttime and they're leaking fluids, the car will stay on the rollback, and we'll put down the proper equipment to hold the fluid until I get there the next morning to open the shop and drain the fluids. Worst case, if I have to, I'll have somebody designate somebody with a key at 3 o'clock in the morning and bring the vehicle in and drain it. I do that anyway. In the wintertime, the state police call me. They say, "Hey, AJ, can you come put the chains on our cars? We have to get out here in the snow and I'll run to the shop and do it." So, no matter what I have to do, I will do it. Like Wayne said, I'll be in compliance with whatever you guys decide to do.
I thought you said you didn't want to talk.
Huh?
I thought you said you didn't want to talk.
I wanted to explain. Wayne and I did talk briefly, but when I talked to him, my wife's concerns, and she said that, and I knew Wayne has some issues going on right now, and I didn't want to call him back to explain that the Enterprise Hertz and the police departments and stuff like that about draining fluids, because I know he's going through some tough times right now. So
So there are there are different circumstances where you may, my car's parked illegally on the street, you'll tow my car, you'll take it to the storage facility.
Right now, at my storage facility in Caroline County, I have one vehicle that's been involved in a rear-end accident. I got 8 vehicles that are stored there